Welcome to our July 25th meeting. First of all, I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Robinson Superior Treaty Territory and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Métis. Can I get approval of agenda for the open session? All good with that? Any disclosures of interest in the open session? Hearing none. We'll get right into it. We got a delegation tonight, Grant Thornton, 2021 financial statement presentation.
Thank you kindly. We'll start off the presentation actually by sharing the financial statements on our screen. And I'll pass it over to Judy Kleinhaus, who is the engagement principal on the engagement, to talk about the independent auditor's report.
Thank you, Richard. So I just want to take a few minutes before we get into the details of the financial statements to sort of walk through what an audit is and what an audit isn't. So effectively, when we perform an audit, we audit for what we call reasonable assurance. We can't audit for absolute assurance because you would never get absolute assurance, and you can't audit what's not there. We also audit what we call the material misstatement. So when we do our audit, if we were to identify an unadjusted misstatement, let's say of $20,000, that would not be material, and even if not adjusted, it would not change our audit opinion. But if, for example, we found a $200,000 misstatement, a misstatement of that level will be material. We would first ask management to make a correction, and if for some reason management chose not to make the correction, then it would actually change our audit opinion. Also, when we audit, we don't audit every account, every dollar, or every balance. At the planning stage, we sit down and identify areas of risk. We spend more of our audit efforts in areas of higher risk, and we spend less effort in areas of lower risk. Throughout the audit, we use different techniques. So on some accounts, we might put a threshold and audit every transaction over X dollar threshold. On another account, we might look at a trend analysis compared to prior years and compared to budget. On other accounts, we might take the population of activity of transactions, put it into the computer, let the computer pick a sample, and audit that sample. Also, although we document your internal controls, that helps us identify the areas of risk and also how we're going to audit certain sections. This audit opinion is not on your internal controls. It's strictly an opinion on your financial statements. Financial statements belong to management. The audit report belongs to Grant Thornton. And in the absence of a separate audit committee, then council is deemed to be the group charged with governance and financial oversight responsibility for the financial statements. So I'd like to read the opinion, which reads as follows. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the corporation of the Township of Schreiber as at December 31st, 2021, and its results of operations, its changes in its net financial assets, and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. So in other words, it is a clean audit opinion. However, our opinion is in accordance with Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards, which differs than how you budget, for example. So when Richard walks through the financial statements shortly, just keep in mind that some of the numbers might look different than how you might see them internally. Because, for example, for budgeting purposes, if you were to budget for the purchase of a fire pumper, you would call that an expense, whereas for accounting purposes, that's a capital asset. Likewise, if you were to borrow money with a loan to purchase that equipment, you would call that revenue in your budget, whereas for accounting purposes, that's not revenue. So again, in order to issue an audit opinion, a clean audit opinion, we have to follow the standards, but those standards do differ from how you budget, but there is a note in the statements that reconciles that. So at this point, I'll pass it to Richard to walk through some of the financial statement figures.
Thank you, Judy. So to start off, we'll go through the consolidated statement of financial position, which is essentially a snapshot at December 31st, 2021 of the different financial assets and non-financial assets owned by the organization and the different liabilities that are owed to other parties. So for example, overall, you'll note that in the year, total financial assets accounted for about $4.96 million. Some of the larger changes that we'll note here overall is that cash is up, which overall, when we get to the statement of cash flows, the reason why it's increased by about $430,000 is because your operating activities in the year generated about $1.5 million in cash, but then there was capital purchase of about $1.1 million. So the net effect of that gets you to the change associated with your cash balance. The other two items within this category that also got impacted was taxes receivable. When we get to note 3, I'll show a more significant breakdown of this. But long story short, essentially because there was outstanding taxes receivable that were actually written off in the year rather than allowed for, the total allowance for doubtful accounts dropped significantly, which is management's estimate of taxes receivables where there may be doubt in the collection associated with it. The other item that's changed significantly is the grants receivable. And essentially last year there was some significant work done with the community revitalization project in 2020. Where there was a significant receivable from NOHFC, which is one of the funders for that program. This year, there is still a receivable associated with some of that activity for the community revitalization program in 2021, but it's much less significant than what has happened in the past. So essentially that builds up your total financial assets. On the liability sense of things, you can see your total liabilities make up about $2.4 million. Overall in the year, not a lot of significant movement within these. The biggest is the accounts payable and accrued liabilities. And a lot of times these accounts payables and accrued liabilities is based on the timing of certain circumstances. So what I can tell you is based on the drop associated with grants receivable from last year to this year in accounts payable. Some of the larger changes that resulted in that change of $247,000 for accounts payable was some of the construction costs and projects that were payable at the end of 2020 last year, whereas they were not payable at the end of this year. So majority of these differences for accounts payable were just the timing associated with when those were actually outstanding as payable versus when they actually were paid. So that gives you net financial assets of $2.5 million, which is a positive sign. It means at the end of the day that you have essentially more financial assets than not, which means it's in a positive position. And we'll go over that statement shortly as well. The non-financial assets in this case are items that are not as liquid in terms of cash flow. So one of the items that there's a significant investment in for the township is tangible capital assets. And you'll see here that it's increased by approximately $430,000 in the year. So in terms of the activity, there was additions of about $1.1 million, disposal of about $2,000, and an amortization, which is essentially the depreciation of those assets over time, of about $678,000, which what gives the net. Some of the larger additions with intangible capital assets in the year was the community revitalization project for an increase of about $573,000. There's a fire truck pumper purchased for about $102,000. There was also, in this case, the fitness room expansion for about $95,000. The playground equipment for $81,000 and some flow meters for about $79,000. So overall, the largest by far were definitely the community revitalization project and the fire truck pumper. Overall, your accumulated surplus, which we'll look at on Schedule 1, accounts for $20 million, which is the mathematical effect of essentially your net financial assets plus your non-financial assets to get to $20 million. So overall, an increase from last year there. So we'll move along then to the statement of operations. And so as Judy mentioned, the budget figures you see here on the left side will not net to zero. And the reason being is because these are presented essentially within public sector accounting standards. So there is a note in the financial statements, note 14, that reconciles the original budget approved by council to the figures that are being presented here. So we can take some time to look at that at a high level. But what I'll do is I'll go through this document from a budget and actual comparison perspective to identify any significant changes that have happened. Overall, for taxation, there hasn't been a lot of significant movement from the prior year to the current year, nor from the budget to actual. Budget to actual are actually very comparable associated with it. So there was no significant concerns or anything there that's changed. In terms of user charges, same consideration. There hasn't been a lot of significant movement associated with the water billings or sewer. It's in line with what the budget expectations were. And then user fees and service charges are just other forms of revenue associated with members of the community utilizing different services that are offered essentially by the township. So overall, the only thing I'll note here is that budget is a little bit lower than what the actual is because as well, some items of this nature are not budgeted by management because they're hard to depict what the actual results will be. So overall, at the end of the day, those are your user charges. In terms of government transfers, you'll notice here for the Government of Canada and Province of Ontario, in terms of the current year and prior year and the budget, there has been some significant movement there. So starting with the budget to actual considerations, at the end of 2021, there is still some work that had to be completed for the community revitalization project. So the remaining budget amounts here that you see as compared to here, the main difference is associated with the fact that the downtown community revitalization project didn't move along as far as management was hoping for in the year. So as a result, you're getting the difference for the Government of Canada and the Province of Ontario based on the fact that those revenues weren't earned because unfortunately that activity didn't happen. In consideration to 2020 versus 2021, the largest impact again, same story with the budget to actual, is the community revitalization project. In 2020, there was more activity that happened with regards to this project than what happened in 2021. So overall, last year there was more significant funding than there was in the current year. As well, there was some other grants under the Province of Ontario associated with the fitness room equipment consideration and as well the playground equipment that is also a consideration within these categories too. So overall, government transfers and other municipalities account for about $1.5 million of revenue, where budget was expected at $2.3 million. In terms of other, there's nothing significant here to note. There is a recognition of investment income, penalties and late payment charges, fines, and other. Overall, at the end of the day, nothing significant to bring to council's attention overall in terms of differences. Some of these items, again, are difficult to track from a budgeting perspective. And as a result, the actuals can fluctuate from it, but there was nothing specific that we've identified in terms of one item that accounted for some of these differences. So some of it just deals with the timing of it. Penalties and late payment charges relate to the interest charged, for example, on tax receivable balances that aren't paid. So that was under budget as well based on the activity that happened during the year. So in terms of total revenues, you can see it was budgeted for $5.6 million, about $4.9 million was earned in the year. And again, the largest, most significant difference is the government transfers, where unfortunately grant funding the funds haven't been spent on their intended purpose. You can't recognize that revenue until that has occurred. So as that community revitalization project is coming to an end and the work is being completed, that project should hopefully be finished off soon enough. Now, moving on to the expenditure side of things, these are your different segment reports, essentially, broken down by general, protection, transportation, so forth and so on. So again, I'll just focus on some of the higher items essentially here. General government, in this case, you'll note, had a higher budget figure in terms of expenditures, and the main reason for the difference here, about $230,000 between budget to actual, is that the net impact of tax receivable write-offs and reversals of tax receivables for AFDA were below budget. So essentially, at the end of the day, because there was a recovery, it actually decreased the expenses for the general government within the given year. As well, other things that we noted that resulted in a lower actual than budget was there was some consulting fees budgeted for about $75 that are well below budget. And that is the same reason for the difference between the 2020 and 2021 was that adjustment again for the allowance associated around with uncollectible taxes receivable. If we look at the considerations for the other items here, protection to persons and property, transportation services, environmental services, health services, social and family services, and recreation and cultural services, up to social and family services, majority of the budget to actual for the current year and the prior year are fairly consistent. So there isn't anything there that we've identified to bring to council's attention for the presentation. The two items we'll note for recreation and cultural services and planning and development is that the budget for recreation and cultural services, there is a difference of about $100,000. And what we'll note there is that in comparing the actual to the budget, there was wages and benefits that were approximately below by about $50,000 in total, and materials for general supplies were about $51,500 below budget as well. So there was some spending that didn't happen during the year associated within that segment reporting. In terms of planning and development, you'll note here again that budget is higher than what was anticipated and what was actually incurred here, a difference of about $105,000. Overall, at the end of the day, when we looked at the budgeted amount, there was $50,000 budgeted for a liquid gas contract, natural gas contract work that didn't take place in the year. or there was very limited, should I say, and other developmental contracts that were $38,000 below budget. So in general, just some funding or expected, excuse me, activity that just didn't occur during the year. So that really accounts for the difference when we talk about the $4.6 million budget for expenditures to the $4.1 million in expenses actually incurred. So this gives basically net revenue before undernoted item of $793,000. There was a loss in the disposal of a capital asset that's basically utilized its useful life and is no longer an asset of the township. Gives an annual surplus of $791,000 for the township of 2021. So the accumulated surplus last year was 19.2 million plus the 791 takes the accumulated surplus to $20 million. One thing I will note for council members and those who are watching is that the annual surplus here that you see is not the true annual surplus for the township. This is public sector accounting standard surplus. We'll speak to the surplus piece when we get to Schedule 1, which shows a buildup of the accumulated surplus, but we'll leave it at that for now. So maybe before I move on to the other statements, because I know I've said quite a bit, any questions from members of council at this time?
No, doesn't seem to be.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll continue on then. So we'll move on to the next statement. So the statement changes in net financial assets essentially builds up the change associated with your financial assets that we went through within the statement of financial position. So this is just showing a reconciliation from your annual surplus to the net financial assets that are shown on your statement of financial position. And the changes that happen. So you can see some more of the detail associated with the acquisition of tangible capital assets, the amortization, disposal, and change in prepaids that get us to our closing net financial assets in the year. The statement of cash flows is a reconciliation essentially to note from your year-end surplus based on the statement of operations and the changes that have happened between the accounts to reconcile back to your cash balance at the end of the year. So there's nothing here particular. But when we talked about the change in cash balances, this is where you can see the cash provided by operation transactions of $1.5 million, the capital used in capital transactions of $1.1 million, and there was some financing expenses associated with debt principal repayment of about $41,000, and that net change gets you to your closing balance for your cash. Now, in terms of the remainder set of the financial statements, I'm not going to go through the note disclosures in detail, but I am going to be focusing specifically on some note disclosures that will provide some more clarity to the users here. So apologies, I'm just going to scroll through until I get to the next note I'd like to focus a little bit more time and attention on. So we'll start with taxes receivable. So taxes receivable, again, is a buildup of taxes receivable from the residents of the township of Schreiber, and essentially the allowance that's set up by management. So you can see here that the property and business taxes receivable this year are only $422,000, whereas last year was $1,061,000. And that had to deal with the fact that there was certain types of tax rolls where their balances have been outstanding for a long time, and management has allowed for it, but hasn't written it off. So this year there was a significant write-off that allowed the township then to go back to their respective school boards and request the education portion funds back. Now, of that funding, though, of the of those taxes receivable of the $422,000, $275,000 of it, management recognizes as there being concerns around the collectability associated with it. So in terms of true taxes receivable, management is looking and saying there's about $147,000 of tax receivable balances that are collectible still at December 31st. Okay. The other part I'd like to focus your attention on will be the budget figures note. So as Judy mentioned, at the end of the day, these financial statements do have to present under Canadian public sector accounting standards. So what this document does for the purpose of council from a budgeting perspective is the approved fiscal plan identifies what has been approved by council. So you can see that there's an annual surplus identified of $0, meaning that when management prepared the budget and council approved it, there was no anticipation for any surplus or any considerations from that end. However, through public sector accounting standards, there's different items and considerations that are not recognized as revenue or expenditures, such as the following listed items down here below. So essentially, management and Grant Thornton prepares a reconciliation to recognize these items that are not appropriate for public sector accounting standards and establishes them back into the relative expense accounts to be presented as such. So these figures that you saw here were the actual budget figures and balances that were shown on the statement of operations. So that's just there to show council and users as well that there is a process in terms of how these changes in budgets occurred as a result. And you'll notice here, for example, like planning and development was 1.8 million originally, an adjustment of 1.6 million, primarily because in that planning and development, significant budgets were put in place for the community revitalization project, which in this case, again, from a cash out perspective, are recognized as expenses, but for the purpose of the audit and public sector accounting standards are considered capital asset items. I'll move on to Schedule 1 next, essentially. And what I'll note here is that this is essentially a buildup of what's made up of your accumulated surplus. It's essentially the annual surpluses that have been earned by the organization year over year and how they've been allocated for across since the beginning of the organization. So what I'll note here is first your reserve and reserve funds. So based on the transfers to and from the reserve funds that were approved by resolutions by council, here's what the ending balances essentially are for your reserves and reserve funds. So essentially for your actual reserves, you can see it has a balance of $3.3 million as compared to 2.945, and you can see some of the shifts that have happened from the prior to the current year. For the Recreation Committee, the 36,000, you can see that that's the total for the reserve fund. It's the only reserve fund that management or council has to set up essentially aside. So those are items that have been dictated by council throughout the year for 2021. As I mentioned before, there is an amount that management is recognizing for a resolution for about $470,000 to move into here. And I think that's a good place for us to discuss the general fund surpluses. Essentially with the general fund, this in this case, when we see a negative figure up here, means that there is a deficit at the moment. So again, in this case here, these deficits, consistent with how it's been presented in the past, is the capital fund deficit. Essentially costs and expenditures for capital projects that by a capital grant or have been determined in terms of how they're going to be funded. And that's similarly with the 376 from last year. So at the end of the day, the $473,000 that management, apologies, might be actually 490, it might be even larger than that, but essentially is being requested by management to be moved into the infrastructure and development reserve fund rather than set here, as the plan is by management in the future is to determine how this deficit is going to be funded either through the use of reserves, taxation, capital grants, and etc. So right now there's that capital fund deficit. The investment in tangible capital assets is the money and funds essentially to date that council and the township have invested. So that's in the tune of just over $117 million. And then these are other items here currently that are presented on your balance sheet that are not funded within the year. So post-retirement benefits, for example, are items that are not necessarily funded within the year. And your outstanding debt balance are also other items that are not funded during the year as well. So essentially management budgets for these post-retirement costs and debt repayments within their respective years until the balance is essentially extinguished. So overall in the year, when we talk about the consideration of a surplus or deficit in the year, the true surplus or deficit in the year is the consideration essentially of the change between last year's general fund and the current year general fund. So the difference between those two figures of about $130,000 is a presentation of what the actual surplus, or in this case, the deficit is. As you can see that the bracketed figure increased to 503 in the year. And again, that deficit is a result of capital projects that have not yet been funded in the year. The remaining set of financial statements, Schedule 2, essentially shows your schedule of tangible capital assets that show the additions, disposals, and depreciation associated with it. That supports the closing figure on the statement of financial position. And Schedule 3 shows a breakdown by actual department. So these are the figures essentially where I spoke a little bit more high level on the statement of operations, but essentially breaks down the revenue amongst the different line items and the expenditures amongst different line items by the actual segment, different segments for the township. So this is just presenting it in a more detailed fashion, but that is it for me. I will pause at this moment and see if there's any questions from any members or any users at the present.
Okay, so resolution 268-23, moved by Councillor Burgeot, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that council transfer the 2021 year-end surplus to the infrastructure reserve in the amount of $473,423. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. And resolution 269-23, moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor McGrath, that council accept the 2021 Schreiber Public Library Board financial statements, the 2021 Schreiber Trust Funds financial statements, and the 2021 consolidated audited financial statements as prepared by Grant Thornton. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
So maybe just a general thank you to Grant Thornton for their presentation tonight. Thanks very
Thank
much.
you, Richard, Judy. Very much appreciated for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having us and for being patient with us during our presentation. If there is any questions, because I know we try to shove a lot into a little time slot. If there's any questions from any of the members, please feel free to direct them either towards Marlene and she can forward them to our attention, or feel free to connect with us directly. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, I guess the question period.
No questions.
No questions, so we'll move on to minutes of the previous meeting. Resolution 270-23. Moved by Councillor Morrow, second by Councillor Burgeot, that the minutes of the council and committee of the whole meeting held June 27th, 2023 be accepted as circulated. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Resolution 271-23, moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that the minutes of the special council meeting held July 6th, 2023 be accepted as circulated. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. There's business arising from the minutes. We have no committee of the whole recommendations. Accounts for payment. Resolution 272-23. Moved by Councillor Morrow, seconded by Councillor Burgeot, that bank debts paid out of the general bank account in the month of May 2023 in the amount of $32,644.27 be approved and ratified. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Resolution 273 -23.
Yeah, that should be the next one.
Okay.
That's it. I'll just let you know.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Burgeot, seconded by Councillor Morrow, that bank debits issued on the general bank account in the month of June 2023 in the amount of $54,780.11 for payroll be approved and ratified. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Resolution 274-23. Moved by Councilor Morrow, second by Councilor McGrath, that checks issued on the general bank account in the month of June 2023 in the amount of $215,489.97 for general accounts payable be approved and ratified. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Unfinished business, resolution 275-23. Moved by Councilor Morrow, second by Councilor Bryson, that the Township of Schreiber bursary in the amount of $500 be awarded to Raoul Iglemini. Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Resolution 275-23. Moved by Councilor McGrath, seconded by Councilor Morrow, that bylaw 34-2023 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Schreiber and Simcoe Refrigeration, Schreiber Arena, chiller and brine pump replacement be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted. Discussion?
Just, I had a quick question, that I think Nathan and Tammy have answered. Just that we are taking option 2, Nathan?
Correct.
Okay, so this budgeted amount then for Simcoe is less than what we had originally designed, but are there additional charges that'll be assigned to this?
Well, hopefully not, but you know, if you look through what they're including, not including, for instance, that would include electrical, there may be additional
Right.
costs that are associated, so, there's
But it looks to me like there's room to move from what the
yeah,
amounts were. Anyway, so there's gonna be
Yeah.
contingency left in there?
quite possibly. Is that correct, Tammy?
Yeah, they build in a contingency to the numbers.
And this, again, this is being covered?
Yes, this will all be covered under the NOHSC grant, so.
Thanks. Okay.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, move on to the committee of whole portion of the meeting. And those, department reports. Number 1, treasurer report.
There's a recommendation from the treasurer that council authorize the write-off of property taxes in the amount of $76,087.26 for the following property tax account: 58510000030740.
So, everybody okay with that amount?
Well, the information you provided, right, those arrears were already allowed for, right?
That's correct.
And after it's written off, we can apply for the education amount back
That's
once
correct.
the write-offs are done.
Yep.
So it won't end up being 76,000. It'll be less.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're all good with that then? Number 2, treasurer report, council expense and remuneration report, January to June 2023.
Well, halfway through the year, we're slightly over where we had put for our annual allotment, but it's been pointed out that there is going to be some savings realized because of
Yeah.
AMO, so not attendance at AMO, or just not being able to attend AMO. So I don't know how you feel, Nathan. I'm pretty confident we're going to be well within budget.
I think so. I mean, it's also stacked pretty top heavy. Again, you get Roma, NOMA, Municipal League. There is probably another Municipal League meeting sometime in fall.
This fall, yeah.
That's nearby.
Right.
So, and just one day. So,
Yeah, I don't think that cost anything.
Yeah.
so it is stacked a bit top heavy towards the beginning of the calendar year.
Yeah.
And because it's a new council, everybody wanted to
Yeah.
get their feet wet.
Yeah.
At some of these conferences, which makes sense.
But I think the financial impact is respectful, considering I think that we're going to come in under budget the way it's looking.
I would.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, treasurer report, budget variance, January to June 2023. Quarterly. Everybody's taking a look at it, understand?
I just want to point out, I don't know if somebody's got any specific questions, but the questions honestly that I had to ask were answered in the analysis that was provided to us by Marlene. So thank you very much, Marlene,
Yeah, that
for giving us that information. It's very helpful.
was a good breakdown, easier.
Very good. Very easy to tell.
Easier to understand.
Yes. I don't think I have any questions about any of the information that's presented here at all. It makes sense. I don't know if you guys do.
Director of Operations report, status update.
Tammy, any highlights you want to point out in there?
Highlights.
Aqua?
We did hear back from Aqua in regards to automation now, so we're just we're negotiating back and forth to establish what we can afford and the phases that we'll establish. The HVAC for the municipal building is complete now. All the balancing has been done. All the controls changed over. The Freon in the rooftop unit at the recreation center, Cloud Darling is working on pressurizing the system to find the leak and recharging the system. That'll be an extra cost.
To their normal monthly
Contract,
chart rate,
yeah.
right?
We issued the RFP for the upgrade to the heat at the arena. We had 2 companies attend the mandatory site visit. So we're just, the closing date is Friday this week. So we'll see what kind of numbers come back with that, but that's all part of that grant.
That grant program, okay?
Yep. We have a number of contractors that we're dealing with. They'll be in and out the end of this month and throughout August, but we are on par for completing all of our budgeted expenses for repairs and maintenance.
It'll be nice, only because I was in there several times this past weekend in those washrooms. It'll be really nice to have that project done.
Yeah.
Really nice.
I'm expecting them here tomorrow. I haven't confirmed that, but that was the last I heard was that they were coming tomorrow.
It won't be too soon. That's going to be a wonderful project to have done.
Yeah.
When are the contractors coming to fix that thing at the park? Isn't there like something at the park down
At
by
the splash pad?
Yeah.
They will be here in the fall
Okay.
to do the winterizing of it as part of the training. That's part of their warranty.
Yep.
So they'll do some fixing at that point. I've got an ongoing list for them.
Okay.
Was there some defective parts in the splash pad?
We've just had some complaints with the pressure at the splash pad. The playground had a couple loose bolts on the gears for the train. There was, I had 3 things.
I thought our guys were trained on the pressure, the settings.
On the settings, they are. They seem to be inconsistent, and the programming is not going through the same sequence all the time. Patrick was supposed to call Ed while he was in front of the cabinet, and Ed was going to try troubleshooting with him. With Heritage Days, that hasn't happened yet, but it's still on our schedule to happen in the near future to try and work through those.
So it's with the equipment itself?
Yeah.
Probably, okay.
Yeah, he said when he left the first time that he had to do some reprogramming with some of the features.
Okay.
The arena roof, we need to have some discussion about that. By the time we get word whether or not we get approval for the grant, it's going to be a real challenge to get an RFP out, find contractors that are willing to work in November to fix a roof. So I'm not sure how we will proceed if that all becomes not possible. I don't know. I have to make some phone calls and consult with some contractors to see how we can put a Band-Aid on a very bad situation for the winter to get us through the winter. But I mean, ultimately, we're trying to get it done. I just don't know if I'm going to find contractors available in November.
You can't even put an RFP out before the announcement, just to even get a step on it?
Can't start anything until we get word whether or not we've been approved for funding. Once we get word, we can move forward with the RFP based on their letter, not the agreement. But we have to receive word from government first, whether or not we're accepted.
Is it feasible then is it feasible to in our heads plan that, because you're not going to do this roof work in the middle of winter, I'm going to just guess that's not an option.
It would be a health and safety issue for sure.
So can we not say that we can maybe look at what patching needs to be done in the meantime until we hear? And maybe look at, okay, we're probably going to not be able to start the roof until spring of 2024.
Well, that's my goal, is to consult with some contractors to find out what kind of Band-Aid we can do for cost-effective price. problem,
Can you bring that back to us, maybe?
yeah, absolutely. The main focus is to protect the integrity of the building.
Absolutely. And
So-
we've got all these renovations and things we're doing to the arena, so we definitely want to protect it.
Yeah, yeah. The timing of this whole thing is going to be a very large challenge.
Okay.
So what's the number one concern here?
Well, the ice skates have been ripped off the roof, so the rubber roof has also been ripped. I've had the guys go up already and secure the flashing to prevent it from flying away. We've already lost a couple pieces, but they've screwed down the loose flashing to secure it in place. My concern is water coming in the building with the holes in the rubber.
But, okay, so number one concern is the leaking?
Yeah.
Leaking, it hasn't
And
leaked
then-
yet.
Oh, yes, we've had water issues already. But the other thing to consider is if we have to go through a winter with it the way it is, I have a real concern about the snow and ice coming off that building. It's going to finish tearing off what's already coming off. And then the safety of the patrons, of course, is first and foremost.
It is really destroying that little shelter over the entrance, right?
That too, yeah.
I think the challenge here is with the OTF grant we've applied for.
Mhm.
I believe this project is a really strong application
Yes.
for that grant, and I'm quite optimistic about it. Unfortunately, you're only going to hear news on that in October. But if you go ahead and start this project, then the potential 63,000 will be ineligible.
Putting a patch on the rubber membrane that's not considered starting.
No, yeah. So if there is any sort of mitigation work or, like you were saying, a Band-Aid solution,
Yeah.
you can research.
Is that allowed, is the question.
I would have to put that to Kim to call the funding body to see what we're allowed to do there, but
Well, technically, nothing will be allowed ahead of time. I'm just saying the Band-Aid solution, just in
Yes.
terms of what you're willing
Don't
to.
say.
Okay,
Do you have to check in with them? Can't you just?
Oh, well, you don't want them to find out after that, the whole thing we have to pay for it.
But if you're,
Watch it, what's the price tag next?
Yeah.
you're putting a Band-Aid solution on it, I mean, it's all gonna be ripped out anyway and redone, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
so that's not really fixing the problem.
That's a good point,
Yeah.
right? If we bandage up that rubber roof, we've actually applied to replace the roof.
no. No,
We applied to,
we're repairing the ice guards. The
Repairing the
rubber
ice guards.
membrane is in good shape. So all the ice guards need to be removed. They need to be moved up the
Yes,
roof
I
by about 5 feet. And then all the flashing needs to be replaced.
so if we're just band-aiding the rubber roof, it's got nothing to do with the grant anyways.
Yeah,
So we could do that.
it's doing it for a cost-effective price that's
Right.
not going to blow our
Okay.
budget.
But let's look at that then.
Oh, I absolutely
Yeah.
am, yeah.
And that's, as the mayor has asked, that's our biggest concern. Right now, it's just the leak.
Yeah,
But, and aren't all the ice guards in the wrong place?
that's what I'm saying, yeah, they need to all be removed, but as soon as I remove them, I'm creating more holes. So it has to be patched as we're removing them. The other thing
So that's
is,
in the part of the grant.
yeah, our guys are not really qualified to work, nor do we have the safety equipment to work at that kind of height, so I have to get a contractor in to do it. They need to be tied off on the roof, and we don't have that equipment.
We don't have fall protection?
We have fall protection, but not for roof work.
There's probably no engineered anchor points on the roof.
That's the point. That's exactly what it is. And you need the kind that that you can adjust your rope as you're working on the roof. So it has to be a contractor. I'm trying to get a hold of somebody local or close to local that won't cost us so much in travel to come and put a Band-Aid for us.
Is there anything else we can do to reduce or mitigate the risk in that one area? Heat
Of-
trace or something so that ice doesn't build?
Of snow coming off the roof?
You're thinking of that front entrance, the overhang piece?
Yeah, just off to the one side is where it seems to be
Yeah,
the biggest area of concern. If we could
A heat trace is a good idea. They're cost effective.
cost a little bit.
well,
Keep it
that,
from building up anyway.
the problem is that it's still going to allow for the ice and snow to come off the roof, even with a heat trace.
But
Once you
it wouldn't
heat
be
up-
coming off though in great big blocks.
It shouldn't
I would
build up.
hope not, but when it does come off, the integrity of the ice guards right now are not going to hold anything back. So I have concern for parking lot safety. It's going to be a challenge. I'm just letting you know that we're still in discussions trying to figure out a solution, but a decision coming in October is going to be really late to do something effective about this. But I will.
I like that heat trace idea. I mean, we have them on our roofs at home, right? And it just keeps it from building up so that it doesn't, we don't have these great big huge sheets come screaming down. That would probably be enough just to hold us until we get the whole roof fixed. It's not a bad idea.
Be worth a try.
Yeah. But like you say, you're in discussions, maybe that just if you can ask.
That might be part of it.
Definitely wouldn't help the leaking issue.
No, it's not gonna help the leaking, you're right. But if you're looking about safety, I think it just keeps that roof clear so it doesn't have a chance to build up and fall on someone's head.
It's that black rubber, it's not shingles.
Right.
So as soon as you warm it up a little bit, it's not going to have a chance to melt. It's going to just slide off faster because it's the black rubber. There's no
Right.
friction.
How significant is this existing leak? Like, does it leak every time it rains? Do we need to put a bucket underneath it?
No, right now we know that there's water coming in, but we're seeing traces on the wall because where the ice guards are, where they've been ripped off, is over the eaves part. So water's going into the eaves, into the walls. So I believe the structure of that building is brick. So I'm hopeful that we're not causing any damage at the moment. So moving on, we still have some concerns with our public works equipment. The grader is in Thunder Bay. He's in the process of taking apart the differential. The plow truck is still not fixed, still not diagnosed. We've had a number of people working on that. It's becoming obvious that it's going to have to be floated to Thunder Bay to find the fix for it. Hate to say it out loud, but winter's coming faster than we all care to admit. The trackless is still having issues. The air conditioning was recently repaired, which is absolutely necessary when you're sweeping. Can't have your windows open and eating all that dust. So they've got that working. We still have a motor ordered for the sweeper. That went down, so we've got some significant repairs to do on that.
But the repairs are planned to be done.
Yep, working on those.
With,
And they're doing, sorry,
and with that, I don't know if I passed on the email to you guys that, I think it was about $320 worth of work was donated.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
passed that email on to you
Yeah.
guys for the air
From?
from, just a local, Mike Minnow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's
And he
excellent.
donated his time and whatnot, and so I just wanted to mention that.
Perfect, thanks.
and then the last thing I have on this report is the, at July 19th at 9:50 a.m., the medical building was hit by a car in the parking lot. So you'll see attached to your report the incident report. We're in conversations with the insurance companies to arrange for repair.
And so we still have no word about when it's gonna be done or cost or, okay.
No, working on that. And then the JML site inspection number 3 was the final inspection.
Clean.
Yep.
Wonderful. Ontario Street reline is done.
They'll be back in 12 months to do the warranty inspection but the project is complete.
And successful? On
Yep.
time? Perfect.
Absolutely.
What's the warranty and inspection consist of? Do you know?
A walkthrough, we'll do some hydrant flushing, we'll do listening device. That's the kind of thing that they do, just to make sure that nothing's leaking and
This equipment is scary. I know at work as we
Yeah.
start to get new equipment, we can't fix this stuff locally. It's a scary
No,
situation.
it's terrible.
It's all proprietary electronic stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
that's right.
That's,
scary.
that's what's wrong here is is the electronics, obviously.
that's my guess. I think there's a broken wire somewhere.
Yeah. Crazy.
I know my experience with the MTO plow trucks but they were in the salt all the time. That was probably the most common problem, and it's terrible to try and find which wire is broken.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody's got any more questions on the status report? Thanks for that, Tammy.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
Director of Operations, Recreation Truck.
Recommendation here to accept the quote for a 2019 Silverado in the amount of $40,509 plus applicable taxes.
I mean, I know we took a look at leasing a vehicle. Did any of that make sense to anyone? Like in this environment with,
I think the leasing only makes sense if you're gonna turn a whole fleet over. Now, Tammy had mentioned there's a minimum number.
yeah,
But there are different companies that have lower numbers that we could actually deal with for leasing. But I think you need to take your whole fleet by year, you need to break them down, you need to roll them around, see how often do you want to replace them, what's considered warranty. It's a big job to take on, to just do that whole synopsis. My thought originally was if we had time, maybe it's worthwhile to take that on and look at doing something a little different than what we have been doing, so that we have newer equipment on a rolling basis. We're not keeping stuff for 10 or 20 years. I know logistically, dollars and cents, it sounds like it's cheaper, but in the long run, it's not really.
what's the negative part of leasing?
That's what I'm saying. The negative part to me is keeping stuff like the way we've been doing. And we do it
No.
because it's cheaper.
But I
To
mean,
keep a truck for 10 years.
for one vehicle, what's the negative aspect of leasing one vehicle
Because
for 2 years?
you can if you can go to a fleet company, you can get a better rate than what they're charging.
Right.
You can get differentiations between timeframes, like maybe a 5 or 6 year lease compared to what can traditionally be offered through a dealership. And as well, you can get attached warranties that come with that when your bumper to bumper is over, when you're buying a new vehicle. There's different ways to look at it. So I think if this is not because I was thinking that this wreck truck was a moderate priority. When we talked about budget, that's what it was. I thought, well, we got time to play with. We can sit down and do a whole strategy around a whole fleet of vehicles. But from my understanding now, Nathan, this is no longer moderate. This is critical.
It always, or
That's according to Tammy's recommendation. I myself looking at your recommendation again from yourself and your staff in terms of looking at this vehicle. I myself have not driven that vehicle or been in it, so.
So the mileage on that is 95K.
mhm.
That doesn't seem like a lot of mileage.
It does not seem like a lot. I would,
If it gets beat up pretty badly,
It's the worst mileage you can put on a vehicle.
yeah.
it's a
It
lot
is,
of
because
mileage.
our
I get it.
vehicles sit and they sit and run, sit and run, sit, and they don't drive. That is so much harder on a vehicle than just driving it. If you drove it more, you'd last longer. 95 is not a
Yeah,
lot.
that's what I have in my truck, and I keep, I mean, I plan on keeping it for a while.
Yeah, but they put hard mileage on because
Yeah,
they're
well,
not
that's-
running it.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Gets beat up. but-
It gets beat up that way. It's harder on a vehicle to sit and run it and
Yeah.
not actually drive it.
Does it have any value the way it sits? Like, is there anything we can recover from it?
I would suggest that we surplus it and sell it on gov deals. You might only get parts, like a price for a parts truck,
Yeah.
sort of thing. There's really not a lot left good on the truck.
And we
It
don't
was
have, we don't-
always a high priority. You were just looking at the wrong color, the wrong column for the colors. The priority was on the GL codes, and the color in the center, the description, was where it was being funded from.
funded, yeah. I'm not worried about the funded from because we've already said we're gonna take it from reserves. I was just thinking we had some time to play with it. I would like to suggest though moving forward, and I'm not saying now, I'm saying maybe in January, take a look at, do a fleet management report. I think it's worth looking at for council's information. And maybe we're going to find that buying a vehicle and keeping it for 20 years until it's due to go to do checks might be the best thing. I don't think it is, but maybe that's the way to go. But I think it's worth looking at least.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's my only thought about that. But if it's critical and something that we need right away,
This particular truck that I'm recommending will also come with warranty because there's only 37,000
yeah,
kilometers on
your
it.
bumper to bumper's probably up, but your powertrain will be there for another 3 years.
We can always get extended warranty if you so choose as well.
I hate that we're not buying local.
Yeah.
I got you. I hate that we're not buying local.
Local was consulted.
Yes.
But when you're buying a used vehicle, it's a matter of what you have in stock.
Yes. And there isn't much in stock.
No, that's the nature of the beast right now.
It is.
There's no new or used vehicles, and
Yeah.
used vehicles are going at a premium.
They are.
Like it's just bad timing, that's all.
So you can get an extended warranty on this 2019.
Mm-hmm.
It'll have powertrain for another 3 years without buying a single solitary thing.
100,000 kilometers
Yeah, she'll never get 100,000 kilometers on it.
and 5 years.
No, but other things could go wrong soon.
Mm-hmm. You're not wrong. They
It is-
could go wrong.
It is 4 years old.
Is that truck still available, Tam?
It is. I spoke to him today.
Okay.
It was a demo that the dealer's been driving, and so he's still got it for us. He's been holding it for us. He has been holding it for over a month now, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much longer he's willing to do that.
She is under budget. If you wanted her to purchase an extended warranty, she's got room to do it.
I mean, I would feel better if you purchase an extended warranty.
The extended warranty is going to run you about $2,500. I'll tell you right now. That'll be where it's going to run,
For,
which still puts her under
for 3 years.
probably 3 year,
Oh, but yeah,
where you could cover the rest of the vehicle and not just the powertrain. They'll give her different options, but
yeah, we got money to play for that, for sure.
yes, because we had budgeted 53 and Tammy's got a truck for 40, so we've got room to play. But if you, I think, would you be willing to look at that, Tammy, and get us a price? Even Nathan, could you get maybe send it off to us?
Yeah. Are you in agreement in general with this to move forward? Is there, and if you want to go with the extended warranty, how many years and up to what? I shouldn't say that. That, if you follow along with the meeting, they'll tell you that's the exact number you want.
Yeah, I'm just, in my head, I'm thinking, in the long run, would it just make more sense to get a new one financially for
I
53,000?
was thinking the same thing. You'd have to almost see the vehicle, right? Like,
Yeah. If you're getting,
That's what I'm wrestling in my head with, like,
Yeah.
if
You're
you're,
getting,
yeah.
Like we're-
if you're getting a new one like right now, right, the main thing to consider is you'll have to see if they have enough stock. Hopefully they do, and you don't have to wait for the specific model you want. The benefit with the new one is you can potentially modify what you want. You can potentially then also look at buying local. The aspect
Well,
with
Tammy has provided quotes
Yep.
for 2 new.
Yep.
She could find, yes.
The main thing with buying certified pre-owned is while you're escaping that right now very expensive financing rate, you're also not paying the premium right off the lot.
So you either go with the, so you're thinking, is this our thinking, guys, that you'd rather go maybe even spend at budget or a little bit over with a new than spend 40 on a used?
I don't know, I'm just,
yeah, I guess, yeah.
Well, the cheaper came in at 53, right? The cheaper of the two?
yeah.
Yeah, 52.9.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's the difference between a double cab and a
4 doors and 2 doors. The crew has got 4 doors. The double has got 2. The little back door opens this way.
Oh, I thought it was the other one around.
No, a crew cab's 4 wheel doors.
Double cab is just 2. Well, that makes sense.
And I don't know, are those still on the lot?
I haven't checked with him because that was not the direction that you led me to believe we were going in, so I didn't check with him today. I assume so, but that's an assumption.
Yeah, I was just, my thought was kind of the same as Dave, if we're at 40, 41, plus you want to throw in an extended warranty. How far off would we be from the new one, but I think if.
It's a good thought.
Getting a work truck,
Yeah.
4 doors is the way to go as well.
That's the used one is the crew cab?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. They used as a crew, and the 2023 crew is 60,000.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So if you're comparing apples to apples, like you guys are looking at, do you want to spend 40 or do you want to spend 60?
I want to spend 60.
60 plus taxes?
The
Yeah.
plan was to buy it outright, not take
Not
this
to
financing
finance it.
deal.
No.
No,
9%.
okay.
Right, Nathan? You weren't thinking about financing it at 9%.
No.
Yeah, since they took the truck twice.
Like I would recommend to you generally to get what you say the vehicle brand new if the and finance it if the financing wasn't so substantial at this interest rate. That would be my recommendation. I mean, and eventually if we do a fleet plan, I think one way to look at it is eventually once you're done with those finance payments on a new vehicle, what you'd have to look at is what the maintenance costs are once you're done paying that financing to see how worth it is a deal, if it is a deal
If
for
it
you
is.
to
Yeah, 'cause
keep
I
it
mean,
that's
for
right.
20 years, right?
Yeah.
I imagine that purple truck from Public Works is gonna be something we need to replace soon. That thing is rough.
You think?
Like,
I know.
okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. That's why, I think we really need to take a look at a whole fleet, but I don't think now's the time. If this truck is in this bad a shape, I think maybe we'll task Tammy, even maybe as part of her 2024 budget, to say, okay, we're gonna need a truck every second year for so many years, or are we gonna look at a fleet plan, or how we're gonna do that
Then
moving
why are we
forward?
replacing the purple truck?
Why aren't we?
Why are we?
No, I'm saying in a couple of years.
It's
I'm
coming up.
assuming
Why
that's.
are we? That's my question.
Well, I don't
And the
know.
reason where I'm going with that is when we went back with Aqua, we got the Aqua truck went over to Public Works, so now we got two trucks. When that truck dies, I don't see a reason we're still gonna have the red Ford.
Well, I don't-
That's my
At that
thought.
time, yeah, you're
That's
right.
my thought.
Yeah,
Unless something happens between now and then.
but if you wanted to replace that wine color truck, it's probably not gonna even be 2 years. There's a ton wrong with that thing.
Oh, no, if we're going to
Mhm.
stay with the two trucks,
And
Yeah.
just,
definitely.
That truck's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm not debating that. It's just, why would we, it's a luxury to have the two trucks.
But again, that goes to speaking towards creating a fleet management plan. What do we really need? What do we have? Do we have the right vehicles, right? That is not the question before us today.
No,
and the rec truck is just used to go from building to building, stays in town, that kind of thing.
It does go out to, White Sand Beach.
How often does that happen?
In the summertime, it happens weekly,
Why?
because we clean the washrooms out there and pick up the
Oh,
garbage
okay, gotcha.
and cut grass.
Hey, would you be okay then with this recommendation without the extended warranty, or?
I think if we're going with that vehicle, we should get,
Yeah.
If it's
We
like
should get-
$2,500.
That's what
kind
it
of a
would be.
no-brainer.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then we're good for 100,000.
But they bring up a good question, right? Because we could pay an extra 20 and get brand new.
Yeah, plus taxes.
But a lot of the taxes, Marlene, we would get back.
right?
A portion of it we would get back.
If we can get the extended warranty, then I'm okay with the used one, considering it's just gonna do what this last truck did and sit around and probably break slowly.
That's not good. Yeah, they sit too much. They sit and run. It's not good for them.
Stop, go, stop.
Yeah.
stop,
Go, it's the worst driving you could do.
and Gordon, you're okay with the use, Dan?
Yeah,
Dave?
With the extended warranty, yeah.
With the okay, sorry, yeah, with the
yeah.
extended warranty.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, I am too. Number 6, fire chief, report the F-450.
Recommendation from the fire chief that the offer of $30,000 from Fort Garry Fire Trucks of Winnipeg for the 2003 Ford F-450 rescue truck be accepted.
I agree. Haul it off, people.
Yeah,
Either-
that's good.
You're happy, Jan?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay with that. Number 7 then, we'll go with the Recreation and Festivals Committee meeting minutes.
Just a comment on both of those things. I think they were both excellent. The Heritage Days, this past weekend was, I don't know. I haven't been as involved as I was in this one, but it was definitely the best one I've been a part of or can remember being a part of.
Yeah.
I thought
I agree.
Saturday was great.
It was awesome, wasn't it,
awesome.
being downtown and seeing all that action?
Yeah, I think the venue down there is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I wish we could have got a couple of drone shots of everything. It was just, it was excellent. It was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
It was
I
nice.
think it was great right from the start, like,
Yeah.
really, the whole thing.
Yep.
I think the staff and the committees deserve kudos for
Did an excellent job.
volunteers, sponsors, you name it, they all deserve kudos for what they've done and everything. I got up Sunday morning and there wasn't even a Kleenex on the ground downtown by the Senate
Yeah,
half
That's
where
true. They
the
worked hard.
previous day was 500 people there, or
Yeah.
whatever there was. And
They were Johnny on the spot, and they clearly took pride in everything we did. It was, it was
Yeah.
Yeah, all the staff were awesome,
well,
yeah.
you're 100% right, Benji. It was great.
It was really excellent to see how the investment in our downtown
Yeah,
really paid off.
Yeah.
And important for us to keep on leveraging it for its potential.
Right?
yeah, I think people got a taste of what it could be with an actual open pavilion there. with
Right.
the tent. It's
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, putting whose ever idea it was, putting that tent up and whatnot was great, and leaving it there
Yeah.
Yeah.
because it gives people the vision.
Yep.
And I haven't heard a bad comment.
No,
Yeah, it was well used.
yeah. The only thing I'm going to suggest again, and you know we've already talked about it, is that maybe you get the committee to sit and your staff to sit down and do a roll up. What was good? Where we, you know. But I think overall it was a great event.
We started that, we did that.
Perfect.
And, at least with staff, I know that the
Mhm.
committee will likely do it the next time they meet.
Yes.
And there were really excellent ideas, suggestions, what was right, what could be improved. And we just want to build on what worked and keep
Yeah.
on doing it
Yeah, no,
better
it was good.
and better. Yeah.
My only suggestion would be to cut the time in the dunk tank down from 20 minutes to 10 minutes.
It's not a bad idea because everyone spends their money right away.
Yeah.
You get more people in there.
That's right. Get more candidates.
Oh, Lordy.
Okay. Economic development meeting minutes.
Yeah, that was an interesting meeting. We had a great delegation from Superior Country. Their presentation, they gave us all the info on the cruise ship, what's going on there. And right now they're mainly focusing on going to Battle Island and concentrating there. They haven't expanded like I originally thought that they were going to come in
Ganilda?
yeah, into the Ganilda in Schreiber Bay there, Flint Bay. But apparently they can't go down with their submarines to see the Ganilda. That was a directive issued by the Coast Guard apparently, so I don't know if that will change in the future. But anyway, what we came to understand was the cruise ships coming and exploring the North Shore is, I mean, that's something that's hot right now, but that may fade in the future, so we need to capitalize on it while we can, if we can.
I wonder how much of a market there is still going to be in the immediate future for
Yeah.
going down in the submarine to see a sunken ship, but
Well, to me, that would be very interesting to me.
yeah.
But their market is, I think, mostly, European, and is very high end, like, I forget the number on how much it costs for a week on that ship, but
It's expensive.
it's expensive.
It's a
It's like almost $20,000.
yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
expensive cruise to take.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're still down a couple of members. We're gonna reach out and try to attract new members. I
Right,
mean,
to the
especially
committee.
from the business community. We're gonna work with the Chamber of Commerce. We had some discussion on brushing at the Discovery Center.
Some of it was done, right, Dan?
Some of it was done last year, but there's looks like there's more room to do work there. Who's gonna do it? Is it Public Works? Is it volunteers? I mean, that all has to be worked out. Our networking event was successful on May 25th. It's good attendance. So we'd like to have another one and invite others to attend. Ask Chamber of Commerce and Parks Canada, Superior Country, etc. Council members. Discovery Center. It's all about the success there. Discovery Center has seen over 1,300 visitors in 1 month.
We're getting lots of coverage from that Discovery Center.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
and people that visit Discovery Center, they are getting the information on what else is available in our community and other communities.
And I saw the banner. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So there is a big sign that was that's in town, and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. One of the suggestions was to put it up on the hill,
Right?
like the Hollywood sign. Well, we don't know the challenge.
You can see it from Nippigan. Don't shake your head. No, you can see that thing from Nippigan. It'd be awesome.
Don't know how the NTO is
How
going to
long would it
react
stay up with the wind?
to that. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. That's a massive sign.
So a discussion was how to get capture statistics on the splash pad usage. So, I mean, that's important information. Data is always important. And I think there was another suggestion on to have scrolling information in the Discovery Center on businesses and activities that are going on in our community. So a very good meeting, and that's about it.
Okay, anybody, anything else?
Is there anything we can do as far as signage coming into town down the hill, or is that like for the Discovery Center? Because I know it almost, I know it's there.
Yeah.
But I feel like as somebody's coming down the hill, by the time they see that thing, they're either gonna have to make a quick U-turn or keep going. Probably a lot sail on.
Well, we have a one of our wayfinding signs there. The problem with a lot of those wayfinding signs that we have, I mean, it may work in town. I mean, they're certainly big, but the challenge is when you're driving on the highway, and most people who are coming down on that hill are supposed to be slowing down to 60, but I think the majority is still going at probably 100. So
Yeah, they are.
it's very difficult to see. It says there, Schreiber Discovery Center and Bait Shop, right? So
That's
potentially,
why they brush some out. They need to brush more. We looked at that big Hollywood sign.
potentially if that you take that existing sign when you're coming down on the hill and reface it with something that actually
You
better
need-
markets.
We just need signs
That will work.
leading up to Schreiber saying
and that's
Wow.
Yeah.
Rail Museum,
Advanced sign.
and then they will slow down
Yeah.
because they'll be looking.
Well, like, I don't know, I've been asking, there's the signs out there, they're old. Maybe it's been done, I don't know, but all summer I've been asking the Schreiber Discovery Center downtown.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we take that downtown? I'm not even saying put the highway up,
Yeah,
take
just-
the downtown off. People drive down the hill. I've had people ask me, where's the Discovery Center? It says downtown.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
that-
point.
All right,
Yeah, that's the one right before Seal.
Yeah, I think it's built by White Sand.
Oh,
okay?
that's that
There's
one.
one at White Sand and there's one at just outside of Rossville.
There's the Rossport
One of
Canada.
the sand needs to be fixed, eh?
Yeah, the
And that
White,
sign still needs to be fixed?
the one at White
Last time I
Sand.
was there, by there did.
Is the sign at White Sand fixed yet, Tammy?
I haven't checked
Okay.
to see if they've done it. Work order's been sent a couple times, but
Yeah, I haven't been
Wow.
out there in a while.
I'll check that out
Yeah.
tomorrow.
There's we need like a whole strategy for these signs. Again, from it's almost all our highway signage at this point really needs to be updated and replaced. So it's quite a bit of money that you're looking at, and it's a big project in and of itself, because you have to go through all the permitting with MTO. You have to show them what your new signs are and have them approved. But we do pay for licensing anyway for those signs, so.
Yeah, so like the sign that is just no longer in existence,
Yep.
the 140
And the
kilometers,
expansions, yeah.
where is that sign now?
I don't know.
And are we paying?
Or is that the one out by,
The one that says 140 kilometers Schreiber, it's like a stupid useless sign, but
Yeah,
it's on the way,
That was at
From-
Lynette. At
Yeah.
Lynette.
yeah,
Mhm.
but it's gone.
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're not
We'll-
paying for a sign at that location currently, are we?
We'll have to check. on
Okay,
that.
because it doesn't exist.
Pardon me, Marlene?
I was gonna say, Kim is on that, she is doing the investigation on that. I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's just,
yeah.
that's another thing that's awesome, and you know, anybody that wants the opportunity to see it
Yeah.
should be able to have that.
Advance notice, yeah.
So for budgeting purposes, we can take a look at what it may cost to get all those new signs, like to get new signs refaced, and maybe that way may give you some insight into maybe you want to replace, 2 at a time each year. I don't know, right? You may want to wait for a grant to do it potentially, but we can certainly get pricing to see what it'd be to reface
We
them.
can replace the 2 signs that say Heritage Day's 3rd week of July with
Yeah.
an ad for our Discovery Center. I think that's a good start.
I do too.
And those are just wooden ones. Those,
Yeah,
like, we might be able to get like a wrap or whatever.
Yeah.
can we maybe get that investigated in the short term? Just doing those 2,
Yeah,
just those 2 signs, just those 2 to start?
yeah, I mean, as long as we get an idea of what the sizes of what's there existing, and then we'll have to see what we can do. I don't know so much about a wrap,
Yeah,
how
well-
much that may be. It may be cheaper to just get new aluminum dye bond, remove what's there, put it on.
I think you're right, though. I think those,
There's
the-
one in between
Yeah.
Terrace and
yeah,
here.
and
Yeah.
then there's one this side,
And-
but I
but they're
think
the same.
wood.
They're the same
Yeah.
size. They're
Yeah.
wood, and they look like they're painted wood.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we'll just have to look at hopefully the structure of like the base that's holding up the sign is in decent condition, so,
Because I feel like in between Terrace and Schreiber, there's like a new sign every month.
Mhm.
I drive it every day.
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
something new.
yeah. But, yeah, no problem, and if we do those 2, it'll give you a good insight into what it may cost to then maybe
Do
do
more
the
later.
rest.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
And then cover up the word downtown on the other.
which you can take that.
Yes, that makes sense.
It's
That
so
makes sense.
simple,
Just take the whole,
it's a whole different piece of wood.
Yeah.
You just take it off. So simple, it'd be 2 minutes.
I'll do it next time I drive.
I was gonna say,
There you go.
drive with the drill and.
Yeah, I'll just bring my.
Yeah.
Okay, number 9, the senior center report, coordinator report.
Yeah, I can cover this off, at the minutes at the same time.
9 and 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we were successful with a grant, special grant, $8,700. And with that, we purchased a piano, wheelchair, new portable microphones, serger, $1,000 worth of mouse cloth for the sewing programs at the center, so. Our membership is now currently up to 392 members, which is the highest ever, which is
Mhm.
impressive, so. So some of the programs that are still going on is Tuesday coffee time, sessions at the center. There's pretty good response there. Swedish weaving, VON stretch program, Ramoli, sewing, 101 will resume in September. Pool table, after some discussion, it was decided that maybe it would be a good idea to have a training session for any women that might be interested in learning how to play. And get the attendance up. Well, I think you're perfect for,
Discrimination.
I like to be you, so.
You'd like to beat me?
Yeah.
Well, now, Richard, if you're talking money, then I might have to take some training.
Okay, we'll give it a try. Floor curling, that is stopped till the fall. Pickleball is picked up again. And the rest goes on to report about Heritage Days.
I just want to say that bocce ball tournament at Heritage
Yeah.
Days, that ball field was packed.
Yeah, that was very successful. There was
Wow.
32 teams and teams on the waiting list.
Woo.
And yeah, it was excellent. That was the most ever teams that it had.
Wow,
So-
it was awesome.
So there will be another tournament in September, our usual fall tournament, so. Barbecues are very successful, doing really well in that regard. Marigold giveaway, gave away 13 trays of marigolds. That's successful. You can see the marigolds around town. I have a few. The planters, the library was given the leftovers, and it's pretty pretty around there. And the wish list, we have a wish list ongoing for any grants that come up.
Perfect.
That was one of the things we decided, that we need a wish list ongoing, and then when the grants
Yeah.
are available, then here we have, this is what we want. This is what we applied for, so great idea. So that's it for senior center.
Okay, thanks for that, Dan. So we'll move into communications.
So the NOMA report, I found was interesting.
Yeah.
About what NOMA is doing for municipalities in our area, and when the mayor and I went to Red Rock, we discussed, if we have any issues that are common with other municipalities on the North Shore, and bring them up at the municipal league level, and then they'll get booted up to NOMA.
Is the way that they summarize it in these report is really good.
It is good.
Because you also see some of the local resolutions, for instance, also pop up on there, and you see how they respond to those issues as well, right? So
Mhm.
it lets you know what may be of interest, maybe with nearby municipalities.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just for an example of that is some of the municipalities within under the NOMA umbrella, they can't afford to go to AMO, or they can't afford to go to NOMA, and so the idea was to still, we did it during COVID. We had our delegations virtually, and that would be an opportunity for smaller communities that
To be able to attend,
Yeah,
right?
so-
Yeah.
So that's just an example of what NOMA's doing on our behalf. So.
DSAB was just their positioning papers for AMO. That's all. That was just a rundown of what they're doing. And it's really new. It's housing and homelessness issues and increasing their social assistance rates. They haven't moved in quite a number of years, so that was there too. That they're getting ready to go to AMO.
That Collingwood Court, they did some work in there.
Mm-hmm.
There was happened to be sitting in Robbins that one day, and some guy come in about 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, and you could tell he was painting and drywalling. So I asked him where he was working. Said he was from Toronto. And DSAB had hired his outfit once before for work in Thunder Bay, and he was really he was doing the hallways, the common room, hallways upstairs and downstairs, and that's totally different from what I heard when Morris was there, that they were just going to be doing the common room. So now they've said they're going to be doing the hallways and that, and they're probably looking at some carpeting throughout too, like the hall.
Yeah.
That's great, so.
Yeah, no, it started, the programmer that was talking to Kathy when we were there, and she had said this, and she's
Yeah.
pulling through with what she had said, so
Yeah.
things are looking
Good.
Yeah. Yep, she's really good for DSAP.
The only one I seen, number 11, Halton Hills, another
Yeah, I agree.
request, reducing municipal insurance costs, gonna tie in with,
Let's support that resolution.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you guys think about number 9? To amend legislation to allow for more home-based childcare. I wonder, I mean, it's not gonna happen quickly. It's probably not a today answer for our daycare dilemma here, but I don't know if that would help.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the home-based childcare is happening, you just don't get a tax receipt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's,
Yeah.
That's the only thing that would be the
True.
benefit.
True.
Hearing nothing else, then we'll no unfinished business, so we'll move on to other business, and that's your municipal insurance coverage.
Quick answer, yes.
And you're looking at two brokerages, right, that would be requesting, when you say to send renewal documents. So all it is, instead of just going to do renewal documents with one, I'll be requesting insurance coverage from the other.
Yeah.
Only tender, yeah.
Instead of it being a, what you say, standardized tender process, it's quite different.
It is.
Because they all have very specific forms that they want, and usually you'd expect a tender where,
You put out one letter.
you put out one letter,
Yeah.
right, and they respond to you.
Yeah, that'd be
They
too
need-
easy.
They need all your specific information, and they want to present it in a very specific way in order for them to quote, so.
Yeah. But you logistically are going to tender.
Yeah,
Yes.
it will realistically still go on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I think it's a worthwhile
Yeah.
endeavor.
Never hurts to ask.
And we'll have that information by September. Okay.
No,
No.
you will have that information by December,
By
probably.
December, yeah.
Yeah.
Wishful thinking?
No.
No. Okay.
Then I don't think we have a choice.
I think it's a responsible thing to do with our money is to go for tender. I think you're absolutely right.
Okay, I will confirm that with our existing provider and reach out to competition too.
Perfect.
Okay, we're in agreement with that, then that's the end of the meeting, so resolution 270, I believe it's the end of the meeting?
Yeah.
Just making sure here.
Well, yeah.
Resolution 277-23, moved by Councillor Morrow, second by Councillor McGrath, that the meeting now adjourn at 8:41 p.m.